Hey everybody, I'm Dirty Dan and welcome back to Greasy Boy Customs. First Tuesday of a new month, so you know what that means. New scratch-offs at the gas station. Wait, that's not what this is about. Tool Talk Tuesday. Today we're going to talk about cutting things up with Milwaukee battery-powered tools. I have three in particular we're going to go over, do a quick overview on them, try them out on a couple things, and show you what they can do. This is a pretty sweet tool. It feels good in your hand, it doesn't feel awkward, it's not large, and it's got some really neat features. Now, if you notice on the back, it has an R and F for reverse and forward. You do have a switch here on the side that you can change direction that it cuts, which is great because sometimes, depending on how you're holding it or where you're holding it, you may need it to spin the other direction. The guard can be rotated so you can help guide your sparks as well, or whatever material you're cutting. It's also got an LED light on the front in case you're working in a dim area so you can see what you're doing a little bit better. They do take both sides of the M12 batteries. I do recommend using these larger ones though, the 4 and 6 amp batteries. The smaller batteries, like this one, the 1.5 and the 2 amp batteries, they do just fine. But when you're cutting especially steel with it, they just really don't last as long as you want them to. Let me show you another attachment that comes with this. This is another attachment that comes with the tool when you buy the kit. This basically turns it into a mini circular saw, which is pretty cool. So you just take your tool the way it is and you slide it in, and then you're gonna lock it in place. You're good to go. When you want to remove it, you just push the red button, you unlock it and take it out. So the cool thing about this, it actually has two purposes. One is you can adjust your height. You can adjust your height and lock it in how deep it's cutting, which is great, especially if you're cutting in delicate areas. It also has a debris dust collector. You take this cap off and you can hook your vacuum attachment to it. So if you're working inside or in an area where you just don't want to get it dirty, you can hook your vacuum up and keep all that out of the way. It has a clear window on the side so you can still see in there pretty well. And it doesn't make it real bulky and awkward. I actually use this to cut floor pans out in a 50 Pontiac. I was able to set the depth at 1/4 inch and just lightly cut all the panels out. It made it way easier. We're gonna cut a little piece of steel and show you what it does. And there you go. Cut through there nice and clean. You do have a little bit of debris on the bottom that you'll have to knock off, but like that with most cutting devices. The next one we're going to talk about is the Milwaukee M18 Fuel Grinder. This thing has been great. It's got a nice, comfortable, shock-absorbing handle that you can screw in on either side of the tool, depending on if you're left or right-handed, or maybe just the area that you're in, or you can just remove it and not use it. You've got a locking tab on the top, so you can push down and lock this in place while you're breaking the nut loose to change out your discs. There is not a life indicator on the tool. The battery life indicator is on the batteries themselves with these M18s. You can see we've got 2 bars on this one. Typically, I use these 5 amp batteries. They do last a decent amount of time. If you're doing extensive amounts of grinding, if you're going to be out there all day, that's unfortunately the shortfall with this tool, is it will eat up the batteries. Now, if I'm just doing a little bit of fab work or maybe cutting a piece of frame rail and grinding it down, you can do that all with 1 battery, no problem, and have plenty left over. If you're putting floor pans in a car, you're going to need 2 or 3 batteries, and you might want to even bust out your corded one at that point. But quick, easy jobs underneath the car, you don't feel like grabbing a drop cord, or you're out in the field or a junkyard cutting stuff up, this is the heat right here. I'm going to do a little bit of grinding, and then we're going to do a little cutoff wheel with it too, show you how it works. We got a piece of 3/16 here. We're going to take our 80 grit flapper wheel, and we're going to just work it a little bit and show you how well it does. It does a really good job, and you can really bear down on this thing and it doesn't bog down too bad. Worn out cutoff wheel we're going to put on here, and we're just going to make a cut in there. I'll show you how quick it goes. I already made about an inch long cut in there, and it did just fine. Didn't bog down at all. And last but not least is the M18 Fuel Sawzall. This thing is pretty cool, and I think that most people are more familiar with this tool. Everybody's had a corded one, and some of you have had battery-powered ones, maybe in different brands, but Milwaukee really nailed it with this thing. I haven't been able to find something that it wouldn't cut through. The battery life is pretty reasonable on it considering what you're doing, and it's got all kinds of nice features. One, you've got this rubber on the front to protect it. If you drop it, smack something into it, this is going to help with the longevity of the tool. You've also got a quick lever here on the bottom that you flip up, and then you can adjust your foot. You've got a quick release on the side for your blade. Works pretty well. You've got a hook here that you can flip out or stow away if you want to hang it, or if your belt is strong enough and you can stand having this thing hang off your side, I guess you could put it there too. It's got a safety lock on the side too, so if you got a battery in it and you don't want anybody to accidentally hit the trigger and cut something it shouldn't. And, you know, it's not that heavy either. It weighs in the 8-pound neighborhood with a battery in it, not too bad. I use the 5-amp battery most often in it, but I've also used the 9-amp battery when I was cutting down trees and trimming my crepe myrtles, and I was out there for an hour cutting stuff and didn't even kill the battery. So let's throw a battery in here, and we're going to cut a small piece of wood with it, and we're going to cut a piece of metal with it and show you what it does. All right, we've got our metal blade in here. I've got my foot adjusted all the way down, and we have a fully charged battery, 5-amp. We're just going to make a cut real quick and show you how it works. Now that's pretty impressive. It didn't struggle at all. We actually started cutting into my second plate that was down here. A sharp blade and a strong battery are always an advantage. Well, I was going to get a piece of wood, but I figured I'd be a little more practical and show you what I really do with the wood blade on this thing. All right, there we go. One-handed. I'm going to cut this stump with it. Look at that. That thing's about 3 inches in diameter, and it didn't care at all. And there's just a quick rundown on the 3 most common cutting tools that I use in the shop. Again, this was not intended to be an in-depth look at each tool and the limits of every tool. It was just to give you an idea of what they look like, how they work, and whether or not they're worth a crap. And honestly, they all are. I've had these for at least 2 years. I've not had any issues out of them. They're affordable, with the recip saw and the grinder for tool only being in the $200 range, and the smaller cutoff tool in the $130 range. There are combo kits out there that you can get through various vendors like Home Depot and, of course, Cornwell Tools. Visit their websites, check them out, do your own research. There are a slew of in-depth videos on these tools on YouTube. Feel free to look at them. If you have any questions about them and you want to ask me, just email me at greasyboycustoms@gmail.com, comment down here underneath the video, or you can visit my social media sites as well. Till next time, happy hot rodding. I'm going to get some scratch-off tickets.